Well, today, a bit of a check-in on this gun. This is an HK SP5K. I've had this gun for, I don't know, I think I got it around the first of the year, end of last year, so call it maybe 8 months at least. Uh, it's as best I can tell, I think it's got around 8,000 rounds on it, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, but somewhere around there. This is kind of one of those guns that I didn't have like a super specific training reason to have it other than I just wanted it and I thought it was really cool. It's an iconic gun. So if I take my wife to the range or nieces, nephews, like that kind of thing, this one's always a crowd pleaser. Anyone who's played Call of Duty, of course, knows the MP5. It's in movies a bunch. And it's a fun gun. So I'll talk through the setup a little bit, but I kind of just want to talk about a quick report of, well, short story, lack of issues with the gun, why I chose to actually take it apart and clean it, and then I'll talk you through the setup. So, like I said, as best I could tell, 8,000 rounds, 90% of it suppressed. The important part, or the part to talk about that is because normally suppressors dry out the guns. You end up with more unburnt powder, just that kind of gunk inside, which will make them work a little bit more slushy and can lead to malfunctions. So normally a 5.56 gun without a flow-through suppressor is something that you'd want to lubricate before every range session or keep it clean, because otherwise you're just going to have issues with most guns. So with this one, as far as ammunition goes, I've shot pretty much every variety that I can get my hands on. So everything from like 90 grain frange, 115 ball, 115 flat point, 124, 147, hollow points, flat points, 147 gold dot, quite a bit of that. Like I said, I think I shot some tap through this. So just a wide variety of ammo. No issues with any of them. I think that's worth mentioning in this specifically regarding the HK, because I've heard quite a few issues about the clones not feeding anything other than ball ammo. Well, short story, I had a bad experience with the Zenith. It was the first one I started out with because it's about half the money of this. And I thought, well, it'll be the same gun. It's just less money. Turns out it wasn't exactly the same gun. It got sent back, I think, 3 times or maybe 4. I made a video about it basically saying not to buy one. But short story, the little lugs that are set up to interact with the claw mount for the scope or the optic were a little bit too proud. So I couldn't get the scope mount over those lugs. I ended up filing down the wedges. By the time I got them so filed down that I could get the scope mount on, it was clear that the optic was like not in a line. So it was not looking at the same place the barrel was. So I had to go back. Then they decided to replace a bunch of parts on them for me, which was very nice. And they turned a gun that ran so far flawless into one that was about a single shot and would no longer feed flat points or hollow points. So I'm back again. I don't remember what happened on that one. And then that one didn't work. And I sent it back again. They ended up giving me a new gun that I just sold, like a full disclosure thing. So anyway, the short story is I've heard the MKE guns are the ones to get. Some of them are made in Turkey, I think now, which are supposed to be pretty good quality. The Zenith ones are made in the US, which I hate to say. If it's made in the US, that's probably not the one you want. I think the MKE or the German gun's the ones you want. This one's obviously made in Germany, and that was the reason for noting all the different types of bullet weight and jacket types or bullet profiles, and no issues at all. So I think in this case, you get what you pay for, and if you're going to get one, you're better off just saving your money getting the HK, because long term it's going to hold its value better. It feeds any type of ammo, which in my experience the other ones don't, and this gun just has worked great out of the box. So my 2 cents on that. This one's an 8.9 inch. They also make a K model. The reason I went with this one was just a little bit more to hang on to. So you end up running out of kind of rail spaces at a premium anyway, and I didn't have any plans to SBR it. So this just it's just kind of more friendly to shoot because you have more to hang on to at the rail. So the reason for cleaning the gun, like I said, it's worked so well. Why clean it? I figured it had been shot enough, especially unsuppressed. I was kind of curious how gunked up it was, and I'm planning on taking it with me to Ohio Range Day. Talking to my friend Nick about it, well, and Rick and Paul, some of the guys, it sounds like It'll be quite a lot of fun. Apparently, doing some shooting from a helicopter at some point, which sounds cool. So if I want to do that kind of cool stuff, bring a 5.56 gun, but this seemed like it should go with me also. I was a little bit curious how tough it would be to take apart, so I managed to just watch a quick YouTube video, probably a minute and a half, just somebody taking it apart, and it was about as easy as I expected. All you end up doing is there's a cross pin on the stock here. So you push this one through, so you can pull out this little cross pin. Then the stock, brace, grip cap, whatever you have, you just pull it straight off. After that, the guide rod and spring, kind of all one piece up in the top part of the receiver. And then the bolt itself just slides out. If you have to get it to move to the rear, you could push on the charging handle, which kind of helps kind of slide it back. You pull that out, and that's basically it. The bolt, I watched a video a couple times because it's a little bit of a, I don't know, a little bit of a geometry game where you kind of have to like get the cam pin and all the pieces and just sequence them together at the right spot to get it all put together. It wasn't that tough at all, but just watching a YouTube video beforehand made it a lot easier. So I was all about working smarter, not harder on that. As far as how dirty the gun was or taking it out, the bolt was a little bit gummy, but I probably could have just reapplied oil, put it back together, and it would have been fine. Because it was not nearly as like gunky as I expected it to be. I think the roller lock, kind of the technology or the heart of the system, is what kind of prevents it from being so gunked up, since it's not a gas-operated gun. So like AR-15s being a DI gun, or any of the gas-operated guns for that reason, they kind of like, the way the whole gas gets cycled through the system, I'm not an expert to give you the specifics on the workflow, so to speak, but it seems like it keeps more of that crap forward in the barrel or going out the barrel. So it really wasn't that gummed up at all. I just took the bolt out, wiped it off, wiped off the spring, and then just with the inside of the receiver. So basically after you pull those pieces out, the spring and the bolt, the lower half just kind of hinges down and just pulls straight off without even removing anything else. And that's basically it for parts. For the upper, I just brushed out the inside kind of with the toothbrush. And then afterwards, once I got the loose pieces out, I just re-oiled it. Same thing with the bolt. I just kind of sprayed it off over a trash can, wiped it off, and then I put it back together. So just a light coat of oil. Nothing too crazy at all. Once I put it back together, of course, it ran again, so no shockers there. So anyway, I don't know that it needed to be clean, but it seemed like 8,000 rounds was a good amount of time where it was time to at least see what it looked like inside. And like I said, I was a little bit curious of how much of a nightmare or how easy it would be to do. I do get a fair amount of questions about the setup, so I'll go through it real quick. Like I said, this is the 8.9-inch gun. The HK guns come with a tri-lug as well as being a threaded barrel. So you could back this little thread protector off and thread something directly. But, it's an MP5. The tri-lug is the cool stuff to have. So the suppressor's an Omega 9K, and the tri-lug adapter just threads on the inside of this. The way it works is basically it can only slide over the top of the suppressor one way. Once it drops down, you just push down on it and turn it like a half a turn or a quarter of a turn even, and then it just basically like clicks in place. The spring, having resistance, pushes it back up, and that's all that's done to keep it in place. An interesting part with the tri-lug is there's no accuracy difference at all. So at about like 20 meters off a rest, gradually pulling the trigger, trying to do like a bullseye style press, the bullets are inside of a 1-inch, like a paster or something like that. And there's no point of aim or impact shift with or without the can, which I thought was kind of cool. So that's the suppressor, which is kind of the coolest part of this setup. Otherwise, the furniture that comes on, it's pretty plain. So I changed this to a Midwest Industries handguard, which is M-LOK, just because, like I said, on this gun, there's not a ton of stuff and a ton of room to hang on to, and I wanted to put a flashlight on it. So, of course, it's going to be a Surefire product. This is the single cell turbo light, so the higher candela, which I'm a big fan of, and it's on a T-Rex Arms light bar. The reason I think Arasaka makes a competing project, Haley Strategic makes one, I think it's called Thorntail, that's similar. There's a bunch of different companies that make them. But the gist of what's going on is it attaches to either M-LOK or Picatinny, depending on the one you buy, and it allows you to move your flashlight forward. So to get it more in line with the end of your muzzle, or a suppressor, if that's the case. So without the suppressor on, this is still fine to shoot. The flashlight is just longer than the barrel. After you put the suppressor on, it ends up where there's really no suppressor shadow, and I don't know, I think it makes it look a bit better, and it's also nice because it gets the flashlight out of your way, because there's not a ton of rail to hang on to anyway. So anyway, that's a Surefire Turbo, one of the single cell lights, and for a switch, I've got the M-LOK Surefire switch. So, and I think it's called DS0. It's the tail cap that has the socket for a tape switch, as well as the button. So you can turn it on manually if, I don't know, zombies eat through the wires or something like that, and the cable's been sabotaged, and you have to activate the light manually. Having the button here is super nice. So being a lefty, it just sits right by where my thumb is. That way, if I want to activate the light, it's easy, and I can either just hold it down lightly for momentary or click it for constant on. As far as magazines go, I've used a bunch of different brands. This is HK. I've got a few different flavors of HK mags, but everybody says these are the best, and I've had no issues. Obviously, if they've gone with any ammo, but I've got older HK mags like this, more like I guess GWatt, maybe era 15 round HK mags, and then newer German stamped 30 round current production HK mags. No issues with any of those. What a shock. I've also used Zenith magazines some. Those are quite a bit cheaper, maybe half the price, and no issues with those with any ammo type I've tried. Seems like, I don't know, the weight, the makeup, all that kind of stuff. The Zenith mags seemed just as good. I've got, I think, 5 or 6 of them, and those have been good to go also. Moving back on the gun, this is a Midwest Industries, one of the claw mounts to use the HK, the traditional HK style with those little wedges or those lugs on the side of the receiver. The optic on this one is a Holosun. This one's called SCRS. It's super low, but to make the optic even lower, ADM was kind enough to send me one of their mounts. This optic takes the same mount as a 509T, one of their pistol optics. So I got an extra low mount, which is actually lower than co-witness height for the mount itself. That way when I put the optic on the mount, which again was lower than what it came with, it sits the optic as low as I can on the rail. It's still a little bit taller, but if I mount the rifle just kind of where it's comfortable, I'll see the dot just over the kind of the window is just slightly over the top of the hood from the front sight. So yeah, it's a little bit taller, but it hasn't been an issue at all. As far as the safety goes, it's just the HK ambi safety it came with, and for Stalker brace, this one is made by SP Tactical. So this one's a side folder, and it's considered a pistol brace. It's quite handy, easy to deploy. I've actually got a backpack that this one fits in pretty well. So it's kind of handy and just, I don't know, a fun gun to take around. So anyway, that's how the gun's set up. No issues at all. I've yet to break anything, and I really haven't changed anything on this gun since I got it. It's just been good to go, and like I said, it's one of my favorite guns I own. So I was going to Ohio Range Day to shred with the boys. It made sense to take one of my favorite guns to shoot. So that's why I cleaned it up, and that's how it's set up. So if you have any questions, drop it below. I'll try my best to answer it. I'm not necessarily an MP5 expert, but I don't know. I've learned a few things along the way, but the gun's just been a lot of fun. So if it's one of those guns you're kind of, I don't know, on the fence about getting, if, in the words of Ferris Bueller, I guess, if you have the means, well, it's so choice. If you have the means, I highly recommend it. Appreciate you watching. Like, share, subscribe, and all that crap. If you have any questions for me, drop it below.